Welcome to the accessibility testing video. We are going to cover the following things in here. What is accessibility testing? Why is it important? What are the standards? What are the benefits? And we're going to mention some disabilities in here and how can we perform this accessibility testing. Let's give answers on the following questions. What is accessibility testing? Accessibility testing is defined as a type of software testing that is performed to ensure that the application that is being tested is usable by people with disabilities like hearing, color blindness, old age, and other disadvantaged groups. That is a subset of usability testing. If you remember, we already covered that type of testing in one of the early videos. So you can go check and remind yourself of that. During the initial testing, you have to check the usability of your product. But still, you need to see how it would be used by people with visual, auditory, physical, speech, cognitive, language, learning, and other disabilities. That's how you will test out the real accessibility test of your application or website. Okay, now, second thing, why is it important? Well, did you know that according to World Health Organization, around 15% of the total population has some form of disability? 15%. And in the United States, for example, 26% of adults have some kind of disability. 1 out of 4. Can you imagine the number? Technology is really changing the way we live, isn't it? Do you remember when you were kids and traveling with your parents and all you had was a paper map, or maybe not even that, and it was a lot harder to travel to the unknown destination. And now, all we need to know is our starting and ending point, and we will get to the route and we will get to the place we want, and just by using the route that was provided with the navigation applications and even with the real-time information like where is the crowd and do we have some work on the road and stuff like that. So it is really changing the way we live, but it also needs to change how we access it, especially in the digital age that provides innovation, constant innovations, and new opportunities to everyone who consumes it. And that is why acceptance testing is important, because it tests all those things. It is important that product innovations are delivered to people with special needs as well, because it would be so unfair that tech is progressing just for the healthy people, right? I mean 100% healthy people. We're not saying that uh, all the products should be enabled for the people that are having some really hard uh, disability that cannot hear, see, or everything combined and stuff like that. That's quite impossible. But we're saying we're mentioning here some regular disabilities and that we are going to talk about in some of the further captions. So the products require implementation of special technologies. Some of these technologies include like screen magnification software, screen readers, speech recognition software, special keyboards to work with, and communication and more. But actually, the real case scenario, what's happening in the world, is not that bright. There are so many innovative products that are not tested against accessibility criteria. It is important to point out that accessibility testing does not only have the focus to find issues that are related to people with disability, but also to remove possible general usability issues And that's where we point out that it is a subset of usability testing. What does that mean? What are some standards that usability testing should comply with? Whether the testing is automated or manual, it is important to check for compliance with specific accessibility testing guidelines. There are several standards for accessibility, such as W3C's Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 1.0 and 2.0, and Section 508. And in 1998, Congress amended the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 to require federal agencies to make their electronic and information technology accessible to people with disabilities. Then we have this Stanca Act, that is the Italian law of 2004 that promotes the accessibility of information technology. The law applies all to Italian government websites, and all of the compliances, or all of the standards that we have just mentioned, this Web Content Accessibility Guideline 2.0 is accepted worldwide. And what do these standards provide? Well, they provide details and standards how to make a website or application accessible. Now let's see something about this about this Web Content Accessibility Guideline 2.0. We're going to check what are the principles of this standard: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Now let's see something about each of them. Perceivable. This principle focuses on the idea that people need to be able to perceive the content. That presents guidelines on how websites, applications, and gadgets can be designed in a way to make it easily perceivable by sight, sound, and touch. When the content is not perceivable, well, for example, it's not perceivable if the author leaves out the description or of a photograph, because without a text alternative, if it's missed out, people who surf the internet without with the screen reader will not be able to tell what is in the photograph. Operable. That principle is a guide to ensure users that should be able to find and to navigate through web content and to interact with it. For example, keyboard accessibility. You can access the content and user components through keyboard. Understandable. That principle provides guidelines on how content can be made easier to understand for all users. For example, it recommends providing alternative or supplemental representations of information. And last but not least, robust. This principle focuses on design that is functional across current and future technologies. People are using different browsers, different screens, operating systems. Some may have advanced features that are enabled or disabled on their phones, for example. And when they find out that they are unable to access something, they are probably going to be frustrated and they will not return to the website or to the application, and the application is losing the clients. Let's proceed with the benefits of accessibility testing. Website, so it makes the website accessible for the society. Performing the accessibility test effectively helps the application to be equally accessible for people with disabilities and provides an equal number of opportunities. This way of accessing the web, regardless of disabilities, will ultimately make an active participating society. So all rights equal for all. Second one, what it does, it enhances the brand image. In what way? Well, the acceptance testing does not only make understanding the website easier, it also positively helps to increase the user's approach and ensures a positive effect towards their website or application and helps to build brand. If the brand has more users, it will be stronger. And remember what we said about the percentage of people with disabilities. A large number, right? What it does also, it increases the website user usage and market share. So it's kind of connected to the previous one. So by practicing the methods of web accessibility, it will be easier for the people with disabilities to access websites successfully, and that ensures the effective increase in the traffic because if all of the people are using, it's surely more than just healthy people are using some application or website. Simple math, right? So, when we're talking about the disabilities, what disabilities acceptance testing wants to take care of and to overcome? So, we have following vision disability, and by that we mean that this method is helping to overcome the challenge of complete blindness, color blindness, and poor eyesight. So all of the level of this disability. Then hearing disability. The web accessibility test practice helps to overcome the challenge of auditory problems such as deafness, hearing impairments, difficulty to hear well. So again, all kind of levels of this disability. Then literacy disability. So disabilities it challenges to find words, reading problems, and stuff like that. Then we have physical disability. This method helps to overcome the difficulty of using a mouse and a keyboard. In cognitive, it's the challenge of poor memory and learning difficulties, for example. And now we came to the most important stuff. How do we actually perform the accessibility testing? Accessibility testing of a website, product, or application. It usually involves extensive manual examination of all of the pages individually, along with testing individual functions like I don't know, product searches and online form submissions and stuff like that. All of the stuff that we can find on a one website. Accessibility can be achieved using both manual and automated testing of specific elements of the digital technology. What should we actually test? So now here we're going to put some examples. HTML validation, large fonts, headings in the application, alternative text in the images, captions and descriptions for audio and video content, skip navigation option for people with mobility impairment, link text, consistent navigation. So, what do you actually need to test? You need to test labels. Why? Because they're used by assistive technologies like VoiceOver or TalkBack. Then the text contrast. How can you test it? You can test it like changing the ratio between text or images and background color. And then hit area size. What is that? That is the area designated for user interaction. So when you try to click on something, is that area large enough so you can actually do it? You have to see hierarchy on UI. And why? Because that determines how easy the Android app is to navigate. What else? Dynamic font size. Why? Because you should try to check these options for users to increase font size to fit their needs, because somebody will need a larger font than is defaulted, right? The easiest and basic manual way of testing accessibility is keyboard accessibility. That's something you all have probably heard of. Uh, this is done by pressing the tab key on your keyboard. And what should happen in that case? Ideally, every link will get focused on every tab, press, and the user will be able to navigate through the application. So, if we consider automated way of testing accessibility, then there are quite a lot of options, such as browser plugins, X for Chrome and Firefox, and web accessibility toolbar. Then we have automated APIs like X and other tools such as Accessibility Inspector, JAWS Inspect, Color Contrast Analyzer, and so on. We need to answer following questions during the testing, the accessibility testing, to see whether the accessibility testing criteria are met. This is just kind of a basic checklist. There's certainly more to check than this, but it's just like a guideline for you. Let's see, what are the questions. Does the application provide keyboard equivalents for all mouse operations like click, scroll, switch focus? Are instructions provided as a part of the user documentation or manual or some tool tips all over the place? Is it easy to understand and operate the application using the documentation? Then, does the application support all operating systems like Windows, Mac OS? Is the response time of each screen on page clearly mentioned so that end user know how long he will wait in order to finish some action? Are all the labels written incorrectly in the application? Are the colors of the application flexible for all users? Are images or icons used appropriately so it's easily understood what they mean by the end users? Is the user able to adjust audio or video controls, so to zoom in, zoom out, increase, decrease volume? Whether users can adjust or disable flashing, rotating, or moving displays? That is really important for the people with epilepsy, right? We should check to ensure that color coding is never used as the only means of conveying information or indicating an action. Because if that is the only indication that some action is happening, that will not be caught by the people who can't see colors. It's invisible for them. Is the highlighting visible with inverted colors? That can be done by testing of the color in the application by changing the contrast ratio. Whether the audio and video related content are properly heard by the people with disability. Uh, there you can test all multimedia pages with no speakers in websites. So those are just some of the questions that should be answered when doing this accessibility testing. But we are we came here to the end of this tutorial, so we should recap. So why do we need? We need accessibility testing in order to comply with some law standards and to enable all people to use the softwares regardless of the disability. And the sweet part is that in the next video we will cover a specific tool for acceptance testing working on the real live random website. Here we made some theory bases that we can upgrade with practical examples. So enjoy, share, like and subscribe, and prepare yourself for the next video by watching this one. Thank you very much. Goodbye.